What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to FudgeMuppet. My name is Scott, and now the dust has settled from what I would consider one of the biggest explosions of awesomeness that was the Bethesda E3 conference. The icing on the cake was an unexpected layer, but one just so flavorful and delicious, we just have to talk about it. We are talking about the Elder Scrolls 6 announcement. The sigh of relief of all you guys, Bethesda fans, and us included, was so good. To actually have proper confirmation is all we need. It definitely won't become some Half-Life 3 fiasco. Anyways, so yesterday we made a short announcement video about Elder Scrolls 6. I was basically shaking for the whole video, so amped up. We basically got a trailer that pans out of this foggy area with the classic Elder Scrolls theme, but with some drums and a lot of brass instruments leading us out to a vista of rugged mountainous terrain and some identifiable buildings and a body of water to the right. And then we get the Elder Scrolls 6 come across the screen, and that's it. And in all likelihood, this is all we will get for quite a few years. Fallout 76 is being released this year, and Bethesda plans on remaining committed to creating new content for that game in the years to come. And on top of that, we have what Todd said is their most ambitious project yet, Starfield, a single-player RPG set in space, a brand new IP, unlike Fallout and Elder Scrolls. There was also a teaser for that, but not much was shown. So if we quickly want to talk about time frame, I feel like the earliest we will see Starfield is obviously 2019, but I would probably say 2020 is likely. But then again, Todd did mention in an interview that he would like to see Bethesda Game Studios coming out with more games frequently, so who knows. But with Elder Scrolls 6, which is currently in pre-production and would be on the next generation of consoles, we could maybe see it 2021, 2022. Either way, we won't be playing Elder Scrolls 6 for at least 3 years. Still, it's nice to know that it is coming. As many of you guys have pointed out, it is probably a fun idea for us to remake our ideal Elder Scrolls 6 video updated with all available info and new ideas and thoughts. After all, we did make that ideal Elder Scrolls 6 video back in 2014. But before we go ahead and undertake that project, let's get back on track. We are talking about Elder Scrolls 6, and in this video I want to attempt to narrow down possible locations for this game based upon what we see in the trailer, but also provide some context and reasoning for those locations based on Skyrim. Things like the Thalmor and the geopolitical state of Tamriel, assuming that it will be set in the 4th era after the events of Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, which I think is a safe assumption considering that it allows for the 10 playable races to be available, and Skyrim was clearly setting up for further conflict with the Thalmor. Also, the Elder Scrolls Online covers the 2nd era, and if you got back into the 1st era, you start having complications with playable races because some aren't on such friendly terms, and some aren't even on Tamriel yet, like the Redguards who didn't arrive in Hammerfell until the year 808 of the 1st era. It is possible they could set it in another time, but I feel like they will continue forward into the 4th era, which would also be familiar for many new Elder Scrolls players who began with Skyrim. So the trailer, let's figure out where the game is set. So we get this shot, this big scenery shot, but it doesn't tell us a lot. There are no crazy defining features, so we're gonna have to get a little abstract. First, like the real world, the sun in the Elder Scrolls rises in the east and sets in the west. If we look at the trailer, we can tell the light is coming from the sun to the right of the screen, out past the body of water. You can see when you look at the shadows cast by the mountains. Now, we can't really say whether it is sunrise or sunset for sure, but I personally get a sunrise feeling, but it could be either. But what does this tell us about the setting? Well, this basically means that this location has to be somewhere on Tamriel on an east or west coast, so that helps a little. But next we need to look at the terrain. This area is clearly rugged, mountainous, with expanses of gravelly terrain which leads to more green areas. It seems this shot is coming out of a mountain area into the vista of a more rugged coastal terrain, but with either trees from a really zoomed out perspective or shrubs and grass. It's kind of hard to tell at some points, but it's probably a mix of both, and I think it's very fair to say overall that the area is A, coastal, B, mountainous, and C, rugged and rocky, especially when you look at this ridge of rock under the man-made structure, which by the way we will get to, but there could also be a crater. Anyways, this should help narrow it down lots. So we are looking for rugged, mountainous coastal areas facing east or west. So let's have a good old look at the map of Tamriel. We should probably do a process of elimination, so I'm going to first rule out Skyrim, because I am 100% sure we will not be returning to the exact same place we just were were. It's also landlocked to the east and the west, so it doesn't fit the trailer. I'm also going to rule out Cyrodiil, reasons being Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion was set there, and the only place that the trailer could be showing if it was Cyrodiil is the Gold Coast here, the area near the city of Anvil, which does not look rugged and mountainous, so that's a no-go. Now we have Morrowind, but we already have been to Vvardenfell in Elder Scrolls III Morrowind, not the mainland, but still the culture was explored, and I don't think they will return there. Plus, I don't think the architecture shown suits the Dunmer, nor does the music theme. ESO has also done Morrowind recently, and even as a crazy Dunmer fan, I would rather this be set somewhere else. The only place I could see the trailer taking place would be here with the camera heading north during sunrise. Anyways, I doubt it, and on top of it, Morrowind has been severely damaged and polluted thanks to the eruption of Red Mountain and its continued spewing of ash, so it doesn't really look like Morrowind. So let's cross that off the list. Now, Black Marsh, I'm going to give a hard no. It has an east coast, but this terrain looks nothing like Black Marsh. No swamps or deltas, and for Black Marsh to be such a swampy, watery terrain, it would have to be a pretty low sea level, I imagine, aka not heaps of mountains and craggy terrain. So we've ruled out Skyrim, Cyrodiil, Morrowind, and Black Marsh. That leaves us Elsewhere, home of the Khajiit, Valen Wood, home of the Wood Elves, Somerset Isles, home of the High Elves, High Rock, home of the Bretons, and Hammerfell, home of the Redguards. Now, some people may argue that they have already done High Rock and a good chunk of Hammerfell in the previous game, Elder Scrolls II Daggerfall, but I will say that lots of that territory in that game is randomly generated, and it's just so old that there would be no problem in remaking it. Most Elder Scrolls fans started with Skyrim or Oblivion, some with Morrowind, but Daggerfall is very rarely someone's first game, and it's honestly quite hard to adjust to when you are used to modern games. Anyways, I can easily see Bethesda revisiting these locations, but anyways, back to the geography. So, I don't think this is Elsewhere. I know lots of people really want this, and we have made videos about the lore complications and annoyances in properly making Elsewhere, and even if it was, the only shot the trailer could be showing is here during a sunrise, but I do get a cold feeling from the trailer. It doesn't remind me of a coastal, beachy, tropical kind of area like Elsewhere is supposed to be. I think it is safe to rule it out. Next we have Valen Wood, the land of immense jungles and endless green. Yeah, just look at the trailer. This isn't Valen Wood, and I don't think it is Somerset Isles either. I mean, ESO just had a DLC featuring the entire island, so I don't think they would go there because it's being quite extensively covered, and second, the terrain just doesn't seem to fit the ticket. So finally we get down to the last two potential locations, which were my and many others' initial guesses, High Rock or Hammerfell. But now we have all that explanation, you can see why it comes down to these two and why we ruled out the others. As a quick side anecdote, people have been saying Akavir, which by terrain alone could be. We have no idea really because it's a far off continent, but my reasons for why it isn't is mainly because A, you will lose heaps of familiarity and it's a harder job for Bethesda to explain why all the playable races have now moved to Akavir, like there would have to be a new colony or something set up, they'd have to do something there. B, Akavir is also huge, bigger than Tamriel, which unless they are crazy ambitious means they would have to select a portion of that map, and I just don't think they'll do it, so I don't think it will be in Akavir. But let's talk Hammerfell and High Rock. So let's consider Hammerfell. Hammerfell, contrary to common belief, is not all desert. There are plenty of mountainous areas, grasslands, and semi-arid areas which this shot could be of. Theoretically, this could be a coastal region of Hammerfell, but let's first rule out the Iliac Bay region. The Iliac Bay region is here. Now, from what we can see in the trailer, we have no visible landmass, besides the continued coastline, and also considering that the sun is to the east or west, depending if this is a sunrise or a sunset, I don't think the Iliac Bay is where the trailer is. If it was coming from this angle, you should be able to see the mouth of the bay opening into the sea, but it doesn't seem to be the case. There is also a chance that it is coming from this direction heading north, and we just can't see the distance because it's so far away, but then again, I don't think this is the case. So let's just rule out Iliac Bay, because remember, we are trying to find where this trailer shot could be. I'd also rule out this bay region here near Tanith, because the mouth of the bay and landmass should be visible, which it isn't in the trailer. I'd also rule out this section of High Rock here leading down to Faerun, because landmass should be visible in the distance, which it isn't. But then again, if the shot is coming from Faerun, it could be so far away to not be seen, but still, I don't know, when you play Skyrim, you can see quite far across the map. Then again, it is a cinematic trailer, so the scale could be different, but regardless, let's just for the theoretical sake close out options where it's possible to see the land. Let's assume that the draw distance is full. So what I will do now is highlight every area in High Rock and Hammerfell that I think the trailer could be showing. The areas in red are possibilities, considering the position of the sun in the east or west, depending on sunrise or sunset. I feel unsure about this peninsula here just because of the shape of it. It doesn't seem to match the trailer a lot. The areas in purple are also potential areas, but the coast here seems a little bit short in comparison to what is shown in the trailer, which seems to go on for a distance. After all the map analysis, it feels as if it's one of these two locations, High Rock or Hammerfell, and the location in the trailer is either any of these west coast sections during a sunset or the area near North Point during a sunrise. Like I said, I do get sunrise vibes from the look of it. It has a bright blue morning sky feeling to me, so for me I'd be inclined to believe that the camera shot is actually right here, moving north with sun rising in the east. I have a feeling High Rock may be the location based on estimated shot of the camera. It also makes sense that the camera is panning out of this area right over here, a higher, foggy mountain potentially. But anyways, let's for the sake of it all assume we have narrowed it down to High Rock and Hammerfell. I want to talk about these buildings and the music, and also afterwards what could potentially happen with the setting, story, and hints Skyrim gave, stuff like that. Let's talk about the music first. We've got the usual Elder Scrolls theme. Morrowind's, Oblivion, and Skyrim's theme each have their own spin on the same Elder Scrolls theme. Recently they had the chanting and burly Nord voices for the Skyrim theme, and this time around they have the drums and stuff at the start, but it picks up with lots of brass instruments, trumpets, and what to me gives me vibes of High Rock, a classical triumphant sound of horns like you would hear when a king comes to court, or when a knight arrives home from saving the damsel. These are very Breton High Rock themes, to me at least. We know High Rock is a setting of feuding lords, kingdoms, and court intrigue, and with the popularity of franchises like Game of Thrones, I could see Bethesda being inspired to take Elder Scrolls 6 to a setting like that. It could also be Hammerfell, it's possible, but the music seems to indicate High Rock to me. Next we have this building here, basically the only structure in the trailer we can see, unless we count this, which could be a town or city of some kind, but it could also be a rock formation and we just want to see a town. But overall, I think with the resolution, it's just hard to say for sure what it is, let alone how it tells us more about what it is. But overall, it just doesn't seem to offer us any definitive answers that really help. But let's look at the building, which we can really see is actual architecture. Now, my initial thoughts about this made me think it was Hammerfell, mainly because of the fact it looks like it is made of sandstone and looks as if it fits the Middle Eastern / North African inspired theme of the Redguards, but upon inspection and consideration, I feel as if it could be any castle or possibly an imperial fortification like the many that we have seen across the land of Cyrodiil in Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion. If you look into the lore of High Rock, it is said that there are many imperial forts scattered across the kingdoms. Or it could likely be a castle, as High Rock is home to the Bretons, who have a saying about finding a new hill and becoming a king. High Rock was once many smaller kingdoms that were combined into 5 separate larger kingdoms after the warp in the west that occurred at the end of Elder Scrolls II Daggerfall, but either way it would work. This could be an imperial fort or a castle, it's hard to tell. Some people have been theorizing that the location is Hammerfell because this could be the city of Volenfell, but to me it doesn't look like a Dwemer city or Dwemer ruins. Let me give those unfamiliar a little context. So when the Rorken clan of Dwemer in Morrowind didn't like the Khyber-Dwemer treaty, their leader tossed his hammer across Tamriel, and wherever it would land would become their new home, away from Morrowind. His hammer was named Volendrung, and Volenfell is where the hammer landed, and there they would build their Dwemer city, hence where the name Hammerfell comes from, because Volendrung the hammer fell in that land, hence Hammerfell. You get it. Anyways, my comments on this are simply it doesn't look like a Dwemer structure to me, and perhaps this area is just a ridge and a bit of a valley and not necessarily a crater caused by the falling of Volendrung. If it were Volenfell, then this would be Hammerfell. It could be, but I don't think it is. I would wager on it being an imperial fort or castle. So where does that leave us? It seems like High Rock or Hammerfell, with more leaning towards High Rock in my opinion, but I would still entertain the idea of it being Hammerfell. Who Who knows? It may be both. Anyways, I want to explore some potential story ideas and theories as to where the story of Elder Scrolls may take us next, and Skyrim gives us some good indicators. So first, we'll get everyone up to speed on the story so far in the Elder Scrolls, at least in the relevant years. So, at the Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion, Martin Septim dies protecting Tamriel from Aeron's Dagon, the Oblivion Crisis, and the Empire starts collapsing afterwards. The Thalmor rise in power, start the Aldmeri Dominion, Red Mountain explodes, Argonians invade Morrowind, the Great War happens, and the White Gold Concordat is signed at the end of it, resulting in an unsteady peace. Only High Rock, Skyrim, and Cyrodiil remain in the Empire, and at the start of Skyrim, a rebellion has broken out under the leadership of Ulfric Stormcloak, who wants to be free of the Empire and the conditions of the White Gold Concordat, which by the way means cooperation between Thalmor and Empire, and Talos worship is banned. So regardless of who you side with in the Civil War, both General Tullius and Ulfric Stormcloak at the end of the Civil War questline seem to talk of a coming Second Great War, or give some potential indication of it. Oh, and meanwhile you're Dragonborn and stop Alduin from eating the world and a whole bunch of other stuff, but at the end of Skyrim, the whole Thalmor conflict is largely unresolved. So where does that put us story-wise? Well, both High Rock and Hammerfell are actually amazing locations for a Thalmor conflict story. Let's first consider that Hammerfell seceded from the Empire during the Great War and continued to fight the Aldmeri Dominion independently after the Empire signed the White Gold Concordat. They fought on for years, and the Red Guards lost the city of Tanith to the Aldmeri Dominion, but ultimately a treaty was signed and an unsteady truce was made between the Aldmeri Dominion and Hammerfell. So if we were to see an Elder Scrolls VI set in Hammerfell, perhaps the conflict could be explored further, and it would be really cool to see a city like Tanith under the control of the Thalmor, and the tensions that it would cause. You could have the progressive forebears and conservative crowns, two political factions of Hammerfell, in political conflict trying to deal with the Thalmor thrown in the political mix as well. In fact, Skyrim, you find out that the Redguard woman the Alakir are looking for in Whiterun was responsible for helping the Thalmor take Tanith. There could be plenty of awesome stories to explore with themes of betrayal and honor, and it would be a really awesome opportunity to show off the Yokudan pantheon, and there would be different interpretations of gods that the Red Guards have. Ultimately, it would be a very cool location that has some grand potential for an Elder Scrolls 6. I mean, there could even be the return of the Sword Singers. Maybe you rediscover the ancient art. Maybe what we should do is make two ideal Elder Scrolls 6 videos, the ideal Elder Scrolls 6 Hammerfell and the ideal Elder Scrolls 6 High Rock. We could come up with some really, really awesome ideas. Let us know what you guys think. But let's next talk about High Rock, which seems to be the more likely of the two at the moment from what we can tell in the trailer. Perhaps as a setup, you could have the Five Kingdoms feuding or warring with each other, the Empire trying to keep its grip on the land, and the Thalmor applying political pressure. It could be up to you to unite the kingdoms or to help one conquer the others, or, multiple endings and opportunities. Basically, High Rock is the perfect place for lots of faction choices and different branches of storylines, and hell, quests. Bretons are renowned for their desire of fame and seeking renown as heroes and knights or powerful wizards. High Rock is the land of ambition. It could be crazy awesome, but there is one particular thing that could be really cool for the Thalmor conflict story. So if you ever get into the not super canon but some of its kinda lore, you might want to know about the Thalmor's devious plan to unmake the world. Now, I don't want to derail this whole video by going off on a massive conspiracy tangent, but there is a whole video we made on this conspiracy theory, and I will put the link in the description. The video explains why they want to do it, but very long story short, they want to deactivate the towers that hold together creation. These are not always literally towers, but are sort of, in a metaphysical sense, the fundamental anchors that hold together the creation of Mundus, the universe of Elder Scrolls. So they've all been getting deactivated or destroyed throughout the ages. I'll list off the towers for you. So we have the Red Tower, which is Red Mountain in Morrowind, which was destroyed when the Heart of Lorkhan was destroyed and Red Mountain blew up. And then there's Crystal Tower, which was on the Somerset Isles and destroyed during the Oblivion Crisis. The Orichalk Tower, which sunk on Yakuta. There is the Walkbrass Tower, which was Numidium and has been destroyed. The Doomcrack Tower, which was an Aelid structure, which has been deactivated. Snowthroat, which is the Throat of the World, which could have been deactivated after the events of Skyrim. The White Gold Tower, which is most likely deactivated after the Amulet of Kings was destroyed, and the Green Sap Tower, which is in Valen Wood and connected to Falanesti, the moving city, which stopped moving, which Could be because the Thalmor deactivated it. Anyways, what I'm trying to get at is that it is plausible that all of the towers could have been deactivated by the end of Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, with the exception of one, the Adamantine Tower, which lies on the island of Balfieria in the Iliac Bay, part of High Rock. Now, if you don't understand, check out the video for more context, but this could be a really cool plot point for an Elder Scrolls VI High Rock, the Thalmor trying to destroy the Adamantine Tower and undo all creation so they can go back to being immortal spirits, and you, the hero, can step in and stop it all. There's some really cool stuff there, really good potential, but we will have to do an ideal Elder Scrolls 6 and write up a storyline for fun later on. Anyways, there are some ideas and setups as to how Elder Scrolls 6 can further explore the promised Thalmor conflict in Hammerfell or High Rock. The last cool thing I want to talk about in High Rock and Hammerfell is Orsinium. Now, Orsinium throughout history has been destroyed and remade many times in different locations, so it can be hard to place exactly, but as a refresher, in the early 4th era, Orsinium was once again sacked by a combined force of Redguards and Bretons. Orsinium was rebuilt again, but not in the Hrothgarian mountains like all the previous incarnations of Orsinium. So instead of being built there in High Rock, it was built in the Dragon Tail Mountains between the eastern reach of Skyrim and Craglorn of Hammerfell. So really, unless the game was set in Hammerfell, you could not see the Orc city of Orsinium in this time, unless maybe Elder Scrolls 6 is the two provinces combined, and seeing Orsinium in a single-player RPG would be really cool. Me, personally, I like the variety, especially of factions, so if there was a game set in Hammerfell where you have Redguard cities of the Crowns faction and the Forebears factions, and then have Tanith ruled by Thalmor, and the Orc city of Orsinium in the mountains, and then you have all these smaller factions, and maybe Imperial Diplomats or Imperial Loyalist Redguards, like, it could be really cool to see. I honestly would be quite happy with either High Rock or Hammerfell, and I think Bethesda would pull those both off beautifully. They both have great story potential, and I am really keen to see more about it, but something tells me we will be waiting a while, so do subscribe and expect the occasional fun speculation and theories about Elder Scrolls 6. Oh, and of course, news for the games. Elder Scrolls has a very special place in the FudgeMuppet heart, so we are really damn excited, like so many of you are. Thanks so much for listening, guys. Your support means the world to us. Let us know what you think about all this theorizing. I hope I haven't hyped you up too much, because there will be years till ES6 yet, but still, that's all from me. My name is Scott from FudgeMuppet, and I'll be back to nerd out with you again next time.